Hey, Café connoisseurs, are you guys tired of diet myths and fads that promise the world but only seem to disappoint us? Well, if you're like many people, the answer is yes. On this episode of the Health Mastery Cafe, where real honest talk about fueling your body and burning fat is on the menu, I want you guys to pay attention. I think it's about time to get past this bloat of misinformation that seems to be out there. And today, we're really lucky because we're serving up a double shot of expertise. We have two exceptional guests with us today that are gonna be spilling the beans on everything from burning fat to adopting the right diet, and get this, a healthy relationship with food. And we're also gonna talk about some of the fad diets.
Next on the Health Mastery Cafe.
Hey, I am Rashawn Ali, multimedia personality, actor, and author, and you're watching the amazing Health Mastery Cafe with Dr. Dave.
So we got a double shot of expertise. We got two wonderful guests here talking about nutrition, giving it to us straight. I want you guys to pay attention. First up though, here in the cafe with me is Tasha Temple. She's a health, wellness, and lifestyle expert. But she's got not one, but two master's degrees. She's got a Master of Science in Human Nutrition and a Master of Science in Education and Counseling. And she puts them together. Counseling and development, right? She puts them together. And you're gonna talk a little bit more about this. Tasha brings the holistic approach. And by that we mean not just the physical body, but all of it. She's got a message for us. It's about mind, body, and spirit. Tasha Temple.
Well, hello.
Thanks for being in the cafe.
It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. We had a great conversation sort of, crafting what we wanted to present to people.
Yeah.
We always start by asking our guests what's in their cup. Like I love coffee, but I'm also bringing in some jasmine green tea of late. And it looks like you have...
I do have something in my cup.
What do you have? A little vodka? Okay.
I do. No, actually, I'm not a vodka drinker. I'm a tequila drinker, but
Tequila.
I don't have tequila today.
Not today. Okay.
But
okay.
I'm just drinking warm water.
Why are you holding back? Don't
I
hold
know. Not today, not today.
But so do you, coffee, tea, or do you have any of those that you drink?
So, funny thing you say that. I'm not a coffee drinker. I've actually never had it.
Okay. That's the end of the interview, everybody. We'll be back next time. No.
I've never had coffee before. I can't do caffeine very well. So
Yeah.
I do drink tea, but most of the time I have two things I drink, and I'll be really honest. I drink water and liquor.
Okay.
And that's it.
And in that order, or is it?
In that order.
Yeah.
Or together.
That's good. That's good.
Or
That's
together.
good. Or together. That's another
Yes.
key piece here.
But typically I'm drinking water, and if I drink water, most of the time it's going to be warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Warm water. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm on the cold side. The rest of my family likes warm. We have a warm, like it's almost like a kettle burning on the stove. Anyway, they like warm water. That's what it feels like. Okay. Anyway, so everybody's different.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that what we've been saying? Everybody's different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Love who you are, but you can still want to get better. I want to break through some myths. We've been myth busting. Here's one of the things that drives me crazy as a cardiologist. The idea that you can drink a drink for a week and detoxify your body.
Oh.
The detox industry, I don't know how many millions of dollars they make.
Oh, millions.
Cleanses,
Billions.
detoxes. Let's put an end to this. Can you take a detox and cleanse your liver? Can you take a detox and lose a bunch of weight?
No.
No, it's not possible. Tell me why. Because people are seeing results. They'll go on a, hot sauce juice and lemon, whatever it is. I'm being silly. But they'll go on like one of these diet or cleanses, and they do lose 12, 15 pounds. You say what to that?
I mean, of course, if you're not eating, you're going to naturally have to find nourishment and energy from somewhere. So it's going to pull from the body that you have. I mean, that's obvious. So of course, it's going to obviously work in the interim, but you're not going to be on a detox forever.
Right.
So the moment you go back to eating food, you're going to gain that weight back. I don't think people realize like what you're losing in a detox is water weight. You're also losing very significant, important tissue, which is like your muscle tissue and organ tissue.
So you actually lose muscle when you do these?
You do.
Not just fat.
Well,
So
not,
water is, you
Yeah.
lose water. Some of them have cause diarrhea. So you definitely, no, seriously, like it's an
do.
osmotic diarrhea. So you actually have diarrhea, so you do lose a lot of fluid.
Yep.
But you're saying you also, in that period of time, lose muscle.
Yeah. Your body doesn't know, or if you think about like losing weight that quickly, it takes a long time to lose fat. Like it's not an
Sure.
easy thing to do.
I know that very well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so your body's going to go through what's easy first. The muscle is easier to lose than the fat because you have to break the fat down. And so the body's going to pull from where it needs energy first, and it's going to pull from, storage that you find in your muscles. So your energy storage is in your muscles for the most part.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, you're going to then start to feel a little weaker. And then if you're not working out, you ain't going to get that muscle back.
Many people who do these cleanses and detoxes have to admit that they are not feeling their strongest.
No.
And you're saying you deplete the glycogen stores.
Yep.
That's that kind of, sugar that's in muscle.
Yep.
Then you start working on muscle and then some fat maybe?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not enough
must
to
be.
make a dent.
Yeah. I mean, there's, 70 trillion cells. I'm sure, a couple 100 million fat cells are breaking themselves down a little bit. I have a problem with it because there are very many of my patients who are seeing me either for prevention or for other medical reasons, like known diagnoses, and it is in complete loggerheads with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Electrolytes get thrown off. If they're heart failure patients, it can be very, very complicated. Kidney patients, liver patients. What I'm telling people is don't do this on your own. If you're going to do this detox, and we kind of feel like we're doing great things, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's for you.
Right.
Right? Depending on what
Absolutely.
So this is really important. We were kind of talking about this. I think there is, if we zoom all the way out, I think there's something in the zeitgeist that is holding us back from being nutritionally more sound as a society.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I think it's the quick fixes. I think we live in such a fast-paced society. Everything happens so quickly. You can scroll to a next picture in less than a second, you can shift of what you're looking at so quickly. I think we want things so fast and right now. And so if I can get it right now with a detox or some kind of fad diet or something like that, I'm going to choose that over the route that's going to take more time, more effort, and, be possibly harder. And so I think we live in a society that it's like fast food. I can get it right now.
Yeah.
I want it right now. And so if I can't get it right now, I don't want to do it that way.
Sure. It's it's really important for us to understand human psychology, or human anthropology, human sociology. It is a natural human tendency to avoid things that are painful. That's a survival tool. Because we have been given a frontal lobe that can then take new things into consideration and really outsmart the brain that we were first born with, right? That first developed, I should say. It takes conversations like this to turn the mirror around and say, oh, I see that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It's a natural human tendency. We're not saying, hey, look at you. I can't believe that you want something fast. We want it fast. We want it quick. That's human tendency.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go to the gym because it's painful. We avoid pain. But I love the idea that we get to talk to you about some of the diets, because you just brought up these fad diets. So
I did.
We do what we call the quick sip here. Instead of rapid fire questions.
Take a quick sip.
Yes,
Let me
of
take a
your
quick
vodka,
sip.
tequila, and water. Here we go.
Let me get ready.
Yeah, cheers. Salud. Okay. And so I wanted to do 5.
Okay.
We got top 5 fad diets.
Okay.
And let's see, they don't have to be, they're not really fads, but not all of them. So the first one is intermittent fasting. What do you think of that?
Well, it's an interesting question because everybody's always asking about intermittently fasting. And I say everybody fasts every day. So it's nothing we need to do intentionally. Everybody goes to sleep. And so as long as you're sleeping at night, you are intermittently fasting.
Yeah, that's why they call it, when you eat, break fast, breakfast. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm most people don't eat right before they lay down, right? And so I may go to bed around 10, I probably have dinner around 8. I get up the next morning about 6, and I probably don't eat breakfast again until 8. I magically have just not eaten for 12 hours.
Yeah. And boy, we've been doing that for a really long time.
How long?
And then some people skip breakfast.
Right.
Because I call the intermittent fast with 8 hours of nourishment skipping breakfast. It's really all it is. Right? You have your first meal around noon, you go all the way to 8 o'clock, right? And that last calorie right at 7:55, and then you go sleep on it.
Yeah.
So you think it's good? Is it good for some people?
Well, I don't really subscribe to it. I'm more of a balanced eating type of dietitian, so I'm old school with the 3 balanced meals a day. making sure your body gets all the proper, appropriate nutrients. In some medical situations, it has been known to work back in the day with some patients that are living with diabetes, but it's just still something I don't subscribe to. I don't actually encourage, and I don't talk to my patients about it either.
Yeah, the data are pretty clear about that. Intermittent fasting that's done right is effective, not just with weight loss, with some of the other things. So their data is out there. Again, personal preference. Everybody's different, and it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
Just knowing what's good for you. Keto diet is the next one.
I'd say I disapprove.
Yeah, my heart rate just went up 10 beats. Keto, tell me why.
I disapprove. I think when we talk about like restricting whole food groups, we get into now like not being nutritionally sound in your body. And so everything is designed to do something. You have proteins designed to do something, carbs are designed to do something, fat is designed to do something. And so when I decide to completely eliminate one whole food group, it's kind of like telling your car you're not going to put one of those necessary like fluids in it.
Yeah.
So like if I have a car that needs oil, gas, transmission fluid, and I say, you know what, I'm gonna just ride around with no oil.
Right.
Or no gas.
Yeah.
Like, is the car going to be effective?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it's not going to
Not
really
for long.
work.
Right.
And so I tell people, like, you're restricting your body from a major macronutrient. And so it doesn't really seem logical to say, like, I'm going to not give my body this particular nutrient. Something's bound to not feel or work right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do understand why people do that, right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
say, let's restrict the carbohydrate and emphasize the fat. Because of the way that we have developed our diets.
Yeah.
Because the way we've adopted sort of looking and taking care of our health, right? So I see it, but a cardiologist who deals with people with cholesterol problems and diabetes, when you are not careful what kinds of fat that you take in,
We can talk about
your
cholesterol.
cholesterol,
goes
and
up.
we see people, their cholesterol shoot up. Here's what
Yeah.
I tell people about keto diet. Know thyself. That means know your conditions.
Yes.
If you have any kind of medical conditions or risks, you got to talk to your physician, then talk to a registered dietitian about how to get that nutrition. And then what I'd love for you to do is test it, because you're not going to know that it works for you or doesn't work for you unless you go test.
Yeah.
So do a diet that is approved and guided, then go test your blood, go get some tests, and then go from there. The next one is the Mediterranean diet. What do you think about that?
I love it. I love the Mediterranean diet simply because it's a combination of all the really good things. You're going to have some, lean meats. You're going to have a load of vegetables and a lot of your healthy and beneficial fats. And so I love the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, the Mediterranean is good. And then there's one more before we bring in our next guest.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about plant-based diets, vegan diets.
Well, I mean, it depends. I say that's more about a preference per person. There's a lot of nutrients that are challenging to get when you're on a plant-based, vegan-based diet. But I think it's important to know like how to get the major nutrients. A lot of plant-based vegans are not quite always eating healthy foods.
Right.
So we can have a lot of junk food that gets tied into that. So if you do it in a healthy way and with, guidance and direction, you can really get all your nutrients and be able to do it well. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can be a vegan and eat potatoes all day long
You can.
that are cooked in,
like
plant
potato
oil or
chips
olive oil.
and
So just because you're plant-based doesn't mean you're making the healthy choices.
True.
And that's where a lot of misconception is.
It is.
There are a lot of nuances to dieting. I think that's where you and our next guest really come in. We've got to be using dietitians who understand this.
Yeah.
Much more often than we do. So I want to bring in our next guest who's joining us on Zoom. It's Kim Shapira. She's a registered dietitian, author, and the mind behind the Kim Shapira Method. Her book, This Is What You're Really Hungry For, is what we're going to be diving into a little bit today. She's got 6 simple rules that invite you to transform how you think about and interact with food, your relationship with food. Let's welcome her on Zoom. Hey, Kim.
Hi, you guys.
Thanks for joining us on the Café. Listen, we talk about relationships all the time, right? And I love this book. I love the title. I love the color. But more than the title, more than the color of the book, it's what's inside the book. Okay. You are really inviting us to think about relationship with food. Like I think about work relationship, intimate relationship, friends. I don't think about my relationship to food. Tell us more about what you mean about the relationship to food.
Well, I think in order for us to be well is we have to be connected to some very important parts of our life. And that would include adventure, relationship, our physical body, our finances. There's so many. And I think anytime we miss out on connecting to these pieces, we become unwell. Just as if we're tired, all we do is think about how tired we are that day. And so if we can start understanding that the relationship we have with our body and the way it's communicating with us is the most important relationship we're going to have, then we can actually move forward in being well and staying well.
The most important relationship is your relationship with yourself. Not just sort of your internal dialogue, but your relationship to your healthy self, your healthiest version of yourself. How do I fuel my body is so key, but many of us, and I've been guilty of this, we just sort of stumble into what I fuel my body with. Stumble into lunch. You know, what am I going to have for dinner? Oh, it's the last minute decision. It's one of the most important decisions you will make for that day because it has so many far-reaching implications. Would you say that?
Yeah, and body's communicating with you all day long. You know exactly when you're hungry, hopefully. You know exactly when you have to use the bathroom. You know exactly when you're thirsty. You know exactly when it's time to go to bed. There's so many hormones, neurotransmitters, electrolytes, messages that we're given all day long. And what happens is we have, we're people pleasers, where our head is not in our mind is not in our body. And so we're not actually in this moment and able to actually zone in and figure out what's going on in our body. And so this creates sickness and choices and more people pleasing problems. And so it's really to know where your mind is, get inside your body so you can get well and stay well.
And I want to get into, the first 3 of your 6 simple rules. I really do. But I want to get your take on this. You heard, Tasha talk about what she thinks is the biggest insult to healthier nutrition for our society. What is that for you?
Yeah, I would say there's nutrition overload coming from people who really don't actually understand human metabolism, clinical nutrition, or psychology even.
That's most of us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people are projecting, right? We're all projecting based on our own history and our own perspective, and no two people have the same perspective. So when somebody's just out talking about, I drank celery and I feel great, they're also not talking about the day they had. They're also not talking about how long they did it, what else they ate, how they're sleeping, what are going on. And somebody is seeing this person and saying, they have this many followers, they have something I don't know, they're smarter than me, they're looking better than me, and they're not going, they're just looking outward. So nutrition overload is a huge problem from people who are not real experts on human metabolism and clinical nutrition.
So, it's one of those things, right? We because we don't know all of those things that you said, we don't know them. I don't know. I'm a cardiologist. I don't know the detail that you can actually help me understand to live a healthier life. Everybody's saying the healthiest version of ourselves. How do we distill that down? How do we get past the noise and get through to people who we can trust? How do we do that online? How do we do that on social?
Yeah, I mean, I would find a registered dietitian. We all have almost the exact same education. We may give you the information a little differently. Like, for instance, when I first started my practice 27 years ago, I was telling everybody, eat this amount of protein, this amount of fruits and vegetables. And then I realized they could do it because they wanted to be really good rule followers, and they couldn't sustain it. And so I had to change direction and kind of get them to see how good they feel when they remove the food noise and the diet culture and the labels around food on what they think is healthy or what they think they should eat, and start just living normally and eating whatever they have available to the best choice they have that works for body in that moment, trusting that they can make up for their mistakes and it's not such a big deal.
There's so much there that I want to dive in. I got to have you come back to dive in that some more. I really want to get to at least 3 of the 6 simple rules. Can you start us off with the first one?
I'm going to just give you a little backstory real fast. All of these are based on science. And what ended up happening is I started saying the same things to every single person, and that they became these 6 rules. And so the first one is to actually eat only when you're physically hungry, to take your normal portion, not the portion the chef prepares for you, not the portion on the box, but the portion you normally eat. Cut it in half and eat that first half slowly, mindfully. Make sure that you're chewing your food so you don't have digestive issues. And then in the 15-minute mark, check back in your body and see if you need more food. Some of us do, some of us don't, but human bodies take 15 minutes, the food and our mind to connect to tell us if we're satisfied. So the slower we eat that first, the more likely we're not going to need more of the second half right then.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Ideally, we want to regulate our blood sugars. That's the link to lowering your risk of disease and having a long life. And so really, you're hungry only as much as you need in this moment, trusting you're going to eat again, 3 or 4 hours really tells your body and your mind that you're safe. And our mind needs to know we're safe at all times.
Yeah, it's a survival mechanism. We've been talking about that. Yeah,
I say,
Tasha.
Kim, I really love that one. I had a conversation with my coworker just last week about snacking. And she asked me, should I have this snack? And my first question to her was, are you hungry?
Right.
And she said, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's number one. Am I hungry?
Yeah. Eat when you're hungry. We're not taught that, right? And we are taught, I think I'm the oldest, I'm 50. So we were taught by our parents' generation who were sort of kids in the Depression era. And the conventional wisdom was eat it all because you don't know when the next one's coming. Well, that was fine back then. So they didn't have the obesity that we have. They didn't have as much of the diseases that come out of foods and poor relationships with foods, Kim, at that time, because it took some time. Talk about the brain and your food talking. It took a little while for that to catch up with us. Now, food's everywhere, and then we were taught clean the plate. So now you say eat mindfully. Listen, if you're waiting for that stretch, right? Because you're really just waiting for the stretch receptors that are connected. There's these nerves in the stomach. They tell the stomach when it's full. They shoot straight up to the brain. There's the appetite center and some other places, and reward center too, right? And they tell you when it's time to stop. Everybody knows it's Thanksgiving. You just shoot straight past that, right? And then you really want to eat Aunt Anne's cake, but you cannot stand the look of food. That's because of this mechanism. But because we've been doing it for so long, mindfully listening to our stomachs and saying, am I full, that's complicated, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but I would also say normal eating is sometimes eating when you're not hungry, right? But the problem is when you do it 2 days in a row. Our body thrives when we're being consistent, when we're going to sleep at the same time, when we're waking at the same time, when we're eating every couple hours. We feel so safe and we thrive. If we eat a little cake when we're not hungry, but the next day we go back to honoring our body, it takes care of the problem and our metabolism keeps going. It's when we say, I ate cake, I screwed up, I might as well keep eating cake. Now we're screwing up our metabolism.
So it's not, doing it once. It's when you get into a habit. We are what we repeatedly do is the quote, not one, everything that you do. Yeah.
And a fun fact, we do everything the same way, about 47% the way we did the day before. So we sleepwalk through the majority of our day. And then that's why eating when you're hungry and being intentional is hard, because our mind doesn't want to do it. It wants to just kind of like go to sleep.
47%. I got to work on this. Kim.
Right.
Let me do my homework. Because I may not want 47% of my yesterday. I mean, this is eye-opening stuff.
Exactly. But Dr. Perel said that we can have 8 relationships in a lifetime. And I believe that we can have 8 with ourselves. And so even if our parents, by their limitations and the way they were growing up, told us that we had to clear our plate, we get to be in this moment now and say, I see that, and that doesn't have to affect me now in this new relationship I have with myself. The second rule is to eat what you love. And this scares everybody, just suddenly becomes totally fearful they're going to overeat. But the real rule is eat what you love, with a caveat to make sure the food loves you back. So really now we're weeding out foods that cause headache, teary eyes, runny nose, clearing your throat, heartburn, any digestive distress, full bloated, stomach noises, gas, diarrhea, constipation, itchy skin. All of these things are being weeded out when we tune in to that we love that love us back. And we're also removing labels like what's unhealthy, I shouldn't. And we're removing guilt, shame, and persecution. And we're learning to trust food in this rule.
A healthy relationship. Not only do I love it, but it loves me back. All of those things and more, right?
It doesn't cause high cholesterol. I have a risk for heart disease because of these foods.
Yeah. And in order to know that, you've got to go get your providers, get your RD together, and set up a team for your health. You're the most important person on the planet to you, and a whole bunch of other people are counting on you to be really healthy. This is really important stuff. What about the third one?
Okay, the third one is to eat distractions. So we eat because of emotional reasons. We eat because the food is in front of us. We eat because we're hungry, and we eat because of cravings. And so this rule really helps your mind so you can scan your body and see what you're really feeling. So many times we are uncomfortable. And in the past, when we were uncomfortable, our mind said food is a good idea. And so every time we get uncomfortable, it's going to remind us that food is a good idea. In this rule, it helps you bring your mind to this moment, scan your body, and say, oh, that discomfort is tightness in my chest, not hunger. What should I do when I have tightness in my chest? It allows you to rate yourself and to say, I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to trust that I have everything I need in this moment to survive, and I'm okay. Your mind always needs to know you're safe.
Yeah, no, that safety, that's an intrinsic part of who we are as animals. We're trying to survive.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
From the mental health aspect of that same premise is that when we are uncomfortable, when we're not feeling very good, we're always looking for something that feels good. We're looking for that reward factor. And so food, often gives us that good feeling. Oh, this tastes really good. The receptors start to go. And so to your point, like looking into and trying to hone in on like, what is my body saying? Is my chest hurting because I'm upset and sad? Is my leg hurting because I've done something to it? Like instead of saying like, oh, I'm gonna get food that makes me feel better, let me figure out what's really gonna fix what's truly going on, which typically isn't the food, to what Kim's saying.
I mean, it actually makes a lot of sense when we look at it. That's why the purveyors of this information that you guys are, it's important for you to turn this around so we can think about it this way. But it seems daunting. This seems like a difficult task. How do we start with this process when we're used to what we just all talked about? How do we start, Kim?
Well, I would say you always need to start with where your mind is. So one of the tricks that I love is to ask yourself, where is your body? And then to say, my body is right here. Like really, it's right here. And then to say, where is my mind? We can actually track our minds. And most of the time, our mind is on a conversation we had yesterday or what I'm going to have for dinner next Thursday. And so being able to track it actually allows us to bring it back to this moment. And what it's actually doing is it's kind of a muscle. You're like working the muscle to bring it back. And so that's the first place you start. And you would do it 100 times today, and then you would keep doing it. So every time you think about food or every time you find yourself near food, ask yourself, where's your body? It's right here. Where is your mind? If your mind is not in this exact moment, it is not okay to eat. Do not drink water.
Yeah. That distills down for us mindful eating. There's all kinds of, new fancy. It's not very new fancy, but intuitive eating, right? I think that falls kind of a subtopic. What that's saying is pay attention to what's happening in your body. What would you say about that?
I say, as a clinician, I start with where you are and asking people like, what do you really want? What is it you're looking to accomplish? What what are your life kind of goals, and looking at it as a whole picture? Because once you find out what you truly want, you're going to really try to go after that.
Yeah.
Some people, it's hard to follow a diet simply because they don't want to stop eating their favorite foods, right?
Yeah.
And they think I have to.
Yeah.
And so to Kim's point, I like to talk about like how do we incorporate the things that you love, and then also to Kim's point that your body loves.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of start with where are you and what do you truly want?
Yeah. And that's a great segue, because this book, this is what you're really hungry for. This is what you really want. This is what we all want to hear. And from you two, thank you so much. Kim Shapira and Tasha Temple, this has been so enriching. I think a lot of people are going to feel very enriched by this and get a lot of actionable stuff that they can start right now. Thank you for being here on the Health Mastery Cafe. And so, as I always say, today and every day, there is nothing more important than your health. Now go master it.